just, okay. Corey is listening only because she's got another job besides her full-time work with us, rightly so. Since we closed the Foundation for Women Center and suspended the domestic work, it's already been almost a decade. So she sent me a message this morning to say she'll try her best to get on visually, but she's listening. Hi, Corey. Thank you.
Hi, Corey.
So let me just, for Sylvia's information, because Janie, you already know this, but Kathy and I met at the UN about a decade ago, when she and some of her colleagues of Women of Spirit and Faith were doing a workshop, and I attended, and it was, I think, fair to say, love at first sight. And the book that they published immediately became one of my favorites, and a quote from that is part of my email signature ever since. So almost 10 years I've been quoting the book. So it's a real pleasure, Kathy, for you to be in conversation with us, and I'm just curious to see how we all at this really creative time, full moon time, because I know I need, more than the Zoom community, what that might look like, going forward. So anyway, I leave it to you, sister. Can you just sort of call the circle together? And
Sure. I lit a candle over here on my altar, and I burned some sage in preparation for our call. And I think it's always a good idea to begin with a moment of silence, a minute or so, to just get grounded together in the same space, to breathe and to get grounded in our own center. So I'm going to begin that minute of silence on my phone, and hopefully you'll hear the ding. I'm going to turn my music on so you can hear that ding. It's beginning. And it's ended. We've been joined by someone.
hey, Katie.
Hi.
So Katie's a long-term part of our family. I'm echoing a bit.
Oh, yeah, that's because I have my musician sound turned on. I've just turned it off. That should
Okay.
fix that. How about if we each sort of pass a talking stick around our circle and just introduce ourselves and where we're located and sort of what relationship do you have to this invitation?
Perfect. Why don't you start, sister?
Okay. Well, my name's Kathy Schaaf. I live in San Clemente, California, and I'm one of the original founders of the Women of Spirit and Faith community. And I met Deborah at the United Nations at the Commission on the Status of Women, probably back in about 2012 or 13, I think. And we've sort of been hanging out together and wiggling the web together ever since. Yeah, I'm complete.
Thank you, Kathy. So appreciate you being with us today. So I love this circle, and the part of the reason that there is a foundation for women is because I so needed a sense of community and belonging, and I couldn't find one. So I sat with some people on my living room floor more than 25 years ago, and that birthed this amazing adventure. And I'm very, very committed to seeing what the next phase of women's circles, women's gathering, what that might look like. So I'm grateful for all of you for joining the conversation today. Thank you.
Sylvia?
Okay. I think it was 1999 that I went to a Foundation for Women event. They may have been celebrating their first anniversary, and a couple of my peers and I went and performed poets, and I'm a griot, a storyteller. And from there, you heard the story from Deborah. I was the first volunteer coordinator and did a lot of work with the women's homeless shelter, wasn't it? Women's homeless shelter, providing meals to them. And then I moved to Tucson 20 years ago.
Can't believe it.
And our bond has never wavered.
Never.
Perfect. Janie?
Let's see, I think it was 2001 when I came around Foundation for Women. I was looking for a spiritual family other than a church, and I was invited to a spiritual day from the Foundation for Women. I knew nothing about them and walked in, and there were lots of women there, and the energy was just so welcoming and so warm and so loving. And of course, I met Deborah. And after the event was over, she was at the door, and I said, "Do you have an office?" And she said, "A center." She said, "No, we don't yet, but we're going to." And I said, "Well, when you do, I want to be the first person to rent a space there." And that's how it all started. And it's just been going ever since. We're connected at the hip, and Foundation for Women has made a huge difference in my life in so many levels. And I just am excited to see what the next chapter brings.
And I just might add a PS, Janie, that event was at the church in Encinitas that you use, Kathy.
Oh, yes. The Center for Spiritual Living.
Yeah.
Small, just a small little trivia. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Katie?
So I met Deborah through a friend who was pretty much, I think, in the beginning with Deborah when she was working on all of this. Her name is Sally. And it was just one of those things that sounded really interesting, and I was a part of a lot of the luncheons and the events and things that went on, and did that for years, and then kind of drifted away. I was raising 3 kids, and it was pretty busy. And then we bumped into each other about 4, 5, 6 years ago, maybe,
Yeah,
again,
probably.
because we both live in La Jolla, or did, we're now still in La Jolla. And then we got back together, and it's been fabulous ever since. We try to meet on our own whenever we can when she's in town. And yeah, I'm a big supporter of Foundation for Women. I think it's great. I think it's great. And I agree. I think it'll be very interesting what will come up in its future.
Thank you, Katie. You really, yeah, it's the history that all of us have with Foundation for Women, Kathy, here goes back, almost to the beginning, which is, to me, amazing. 25 years has passed. We passed our 25th anniversary in April of this year. So it's, there was no expectations when this community started, but the fact that we have been able to impact the lives of so many people locally and globally is just phenomenal to me. And I think there's a whole nother next chapter that I think it's time for us to sort of birth into. So maybe you can speak a little bit about that, Kathy, in terms of what Women of Spirit and Faith are doing in your intentionality to bring in the next generation into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I think it's a fine place to start. I'm actually going to start with what you just said about that it's time for the next chapter. I think you are not alone in that. Women of Spirit and Faith very much has that feeling that there's an evolution coming, another turn of the spiral, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that turn of the spiral is not yet, the specifics of it are not yet visible. But it's a feeling, it's a stirring that seems to be happening in women individually and in the various collective kind of communities that we've formed over the years, the divine assignments that we've been given to create those islands of connection and relationship. And I just returned a couple weeks ago from the Parliament of the World's Religions, where I ran into a lot of women that I've known for many years. And women from Gather the Women, women from Millionth Circle, women from the Center for Partnership. Everyone I talk to is saying this same thing. There's something new we're supposed to be doing, but we can't quite see it yet. So I think that's a way, first of all, of sort of letting us all off the hook of having to know something about what this next phase looks like and being able to relax into it together. I have a funny feeling that what the next phase of this all looks like has to do with connecting those various islands of connection and relationship and community, those various spider webs that you've created, that I've created, that many other women have created in small forms and large ones, local ones, and international ones. It seems like right around the time of 9/11 was really a bursting forth of women saying, we have got to begin to step in to leadership now, because so clearly patriarchy has broken this world. And that was a time when I believe that there were thousands upon thousands of small women's communities, imprints, organizations, networks, projects that got birthed in the huge hole in the universe that was created that day.
Mhm.
And in the grief that we all felt about how that precious moment where we could have all been stitched together with love once again turned into war. And the men going to war with other men, and women and children paying the price, as has happened since the beginning of time. So Women of Spirit and Faith was formed in 2009, and it was born out of a conversation at the 2009 Parliament of the World's Religions, which was in Melbourne, Australia. And we knew from the beginning of our conversations about what is it we're supposed to be doing here, that we needed to involve young women. And I had just come off of a 8-year tenure as sort of the unpaid, unacknowledged executive director of Gather the Women. I was one of the co-founders of that organization in 2002. And Gather the Women was 100% baby boomer age women. They were women at the time in their 50s who eventually became women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. There were no young women involved. And there were actually very few women of color who responded to those early invitations. It was almost all white baby boomer women. So when we began Women of Spirit and Faith, we did it with a very conscious effort to have diversity of age, of ethnicity, and of spiritual perspectives. And we reached out to a whole network of women our age that we knew, and we asked them to recommend, to nominate a young woman to come to one of the early events that we were doing, a young woman who seemed to be ripe for spiritual depth, for spiritual exploration, for spiritual leadership, if you will. And that's how we came to have our core circle. We don't operate in a linear fashion. We don't have an executive director. We have a board on paper only for the state of California, but we function in a circle, and a core circle, we call it. That's sort of our leadership circle. And half of that leadership is women between the ages of 20 and 40, and then the other half of it is we elders. And what we have discovered by doing that is that those young women keep bringing the future to us. They drop it right in the middle of the circle. They are the future. And the things that they are struggling with are predictors, are indicators of where our culture is ill and needs healing. And the gifts that they bring, the gift of vision, the gift of creativity, the gift of thinking outside the boxes that we think in sort of unfortunately automatically. Those boxes don't exist for them. One of those young women several months ago, she's probably about 23, 24, I would guess. She is a fairly well-known musical performer with very young people. But we were having a circle and we were passing our talking stick. And Kay, who is our oldest, she's 85, was talking about how when she was their age, she already had 2 of her 5 children. That in those days, that's just what you did. You started having babies when you were 20 or 21. Even if you were in university studying to be a nurse, as she was, you still started having your babies when you were in your 20s. And she was talking about this, and I had shared something about how hard it is having my son, my 34-year-old baby, my 30-year-old baby, living in Amsterdam for 2 years, and how much I miss him. And she began to talk, when she got the talking stick, about the fact that she feels envious when she hears we elders talking, because she can tell that we grew up in a time where there was a shared sense of what was true. There was misogyny, there was racism, there was colonializing, there was still the toxic effects of patriarchy were still everywhere, but there was some solid ground under our feet, some shared sense of what was right, what was wrong, what was true, what was false. And she said, you elders here in this circle need to understand that every one of us young ones who sit here was born after 9/11. We were born into a world that had already been atomized, is the word that she used.
Wow.
A world that had been blown apart, including our understanding of what's true, what's not true, what's good, what's not good, has also been blown apart into a million islands of blaming, accusation, hatred of the other. So that commitment on our part has been the most rewarding thing that we have ever done, and has led us to continuously change and evolve. Deborah had reached out to me a couple months ago and invited me onto a Zoom call with her and Janie to talk about this challenge that the Foundation for Women seems to be facing, that since COVID, it seems to have atomized in some ways, that it's scattered. Those women have scattered. And her question is, did I have any suggestions, any insights, any ideas about what might be done to rebuild a sense of community on the ground, locally, gathering in person again? And I actually think that a carefully planned, far enough in the future that it is not stressful for any of us, but a carefully planned gathering, like a full day gathering with no agenda. That's one of the really powerful things that we have discovered over these last, I would say, 5 years. We began doing what we called circles of 9, where we would come together in a big home somewhere. We rent a Airbnb in Salt Lake City, where there are lots of big homes for rent because of all those gigantic Mormon families. And we would hunker down from Thursday night until noon on Sunday together and just have a great big pajama party. And we would cook all of our meals together, and we would do circle morning, afternoon, and evening, with no agenda except to hear what is arising in women, hear the wisdom that is being evoked from that sacred center of those circle conversations. And that activity, first of all 9 of us, half young leaders and half elders, and then we have a bridge generation in between, the young women who were in our first cluster of young leaders are now 40 to 46, and are struggling with divorces and remarriages and blended families and juggling kids and careers and that stage of life. But we would find such deep, deep, authentic relationship with one another at those deep gatherings. So what I can picture is a day-long gathering, a gathering like from 10 to 3, where we would serve a lunch and everyone would be seated at round tables of 6 or 7 people. And we would work together to invite new people in, create a new community in North San Diego or San Diego, wherever you choose, and formulate some really good questions for people to discuss at those circles, for people to explore together. And our experience over and over and over again is if you ask a question that's really a good question, that truly has marinated for quite a long time and gone through 8 different iterations, so that you don't presuppose any answers, but it's truly an open invitation to explore, to go deep within and listen to your own intuition and your own inner wisdom. That there is an agenda that spirit brings that arises in the room. And then you can begin to see, it looks like this. And this is what we might do next.
It's so interesting that you say that, Kathy, because my experience outside of the US is really just that. We've hosted something called the All Liberian Women's Summit several years until COVID, and had hundreds of women, all ages, from 20 and couldn't write their name, only a thumbprint, to educated attorneys and leaders, and sitting in those kinds of circles with 7 or 8 people at a table and really listening to each other. And that is, I've never really experienced anything quite as rich as that. And it's the same kind of thing that I think we used to do when we had FFW First Fridays in person, because we would have either a place or a topic, and that was it, but no expectation really. And whoever came to those First Fridays came with their wisdom, I guess is what I want to say. And Sylvia was so brilliant at that every time she led a circle, because that's her life, is telling stories and getting people to be part of the story. So yeah, I love the intentionality that you have been so committed to about, first of all, it's really, I got something from a doctor friend of mine in outside of the country about a week ago saying, can you believe we're now the elders? And just the surprise that we put that label on ourselves now is just like, how did that happen? In a twinkling. But the intentionality each one of us who has found this community sense, these circles, so, vitally impactful and important, to be really intentional about finding a young woman or two young women and inviting them to come to the. I was thinking about this before we had this conversation, and then I really want to hear from all of you. But one really important thing that Foundation for Women did every year in September, we had this luncheon called Honoring the Women in Our Lives, and it was an opportunity for every single person who was part of the Foundation for Women in any way whatsoever, to just highlight one woman in their life for whatever reason, that was so impactful for them. And we haven't done this, for years now. It started off when we suspended the domestic work, but especially since COVID. And I was just thinking about how much I would really just like to try and invite people at this time, the month of September, to just share with us a story of one woman that has impacted their life so much, and honor them in some way. Not doing it in person yet, because I think what you said, Kathy, I think we have to be intentional and careful about planning this day, maybe in November, that we're thankful for women's circles. I no expectation about that yet, but I don't think we can just turn the switch and say people are going to come back out if we offer something now, because people are so used to one of our longtime supporters and members is on a train to Los Angeles, and she sent me a text just a short time ago, said the internet's not working, and so she can't get on the call. But Barbara has said to me, when we've had a little bit of this conversation, she's tired. COVID made her tired. She got lazy. She just doesn't dress up like she used to. She lives in her pickleball. She lives in her pickleball outfit, and her sweats, and it takes a lot for her to go. She's got a couple women's meetings that she goes to every week, and that's like enough, so that just what would motivate
Well,
women to join the circle?
Something flashed when you said COVID made her tired.
Yeah.
I don't think COVID made us tired. I think COVID was one brick too many. I think that for many women of heart and compassion, Trump's election in 2016 knocked the wind out of us. The ensuing years and the atmosphere of meanness that took over in America was another blow. It's sort of been death by 1,000 cuts in some ways for the last 8 years. So what women need is hope. They need to be reminded of the magic that they carry, and that they carry it specifically for these times. That the harder it's getting out there, the more we need each other, the more we need faith in the good, no matter what we call God. And we need each other if we're going to survive this. So that for me is the truth, first of all. But it's also the invitation.
I love that, Kathy, all of that. And especially the fact we need each other. And that's what, the deaths by 1,000 cuts, COVID was just one big, bang of many. But I think what's happening with the mental health issues for young people right now. I mean, it's a crisis. So yes, I think we all understand that we need each other. So how can we figure out what to do, Sylvia, so
Sylvia
that,
has an idea. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't have an answer to that. What I do have is I heard the word rebranding. That's what we need at this time, or this is an appropriate time to rebrand ourselves, because what people know about the foundation is a 25-year-old experience. And what you're wanting to create is something different. I can't call it new, but something different. We are dealing with convenience. It's convenient to sit here at home and click on the computer and see each other, as opposed to having to put on clothes, do the hair and makeup, and go out. That's what Barbara is talking about, that she got lazy. It's convenient to be at home. So we have to find a way to make it less convenient to be at home and to be together again, because what we realized through COVID was how much we need touch. And to be restricted from not being able to hug and to touch was a huge mental disturbance for a lot of people.
Amen.
So all this stuff that man with the yellow hair created came to the surface. It was already there, but it came to the surface. And so what we get to do is to shine the light of love and caring and appreciation and honoring to make that go away.
Yeah, Sylvia, it makes me think Janie calls it the green slime. The green slime was always there underneath all the rocks, but now, the rocks got picked up and the green slime came up to the light. But that's the only way it's going to get healed, is if it comes up to the light. So and it's messy right now, but at least it's not hidden any longer.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just piggyback on
what you can't
what
see.
Sylvia said, because I believe I love your word rebranding, but I actually think it's deeper than that. I think that when your domestic program imploded, if you will, and it did, you have an opportunity now to redefine what your mission is with women here in the United States. Do you want it to be a nationwide invitation for women to gather and support each other? Or do you want it to be regional, Southern California, a little more manageable and easier to gather in person? There's rebranding, and there's also a new vision at Foundation for Women about what your work looks like here in the United States.
The word the businesses used during COVID was pivot. And that's what they did. It was like they saw what was coming, because almost instantly they shifted and met the needs of the people. They had the shields over in front of the cashiers. They had all this stuff just happened almost overnight. And I'm thinking somebody knew what was coming. But the word was pivot, and we can pivot. We can figure out how to pivot.
And this gathering that we're talking about doing in Southern California could in part be a visioning exercise, a time to gather information about what needs of women in the United States are not already being served by any other organization.
Yeah, I love that, Kathy. And to have it be an example, sort of a petri dish. Let's try this and see what comes up. And then it's what we're doing in Liberia right now. We just presented a big paper to the Stanford University Journal on our collective impact model that we have there. The work in Liberia has always been way bigger than Liberia. It's been a chance to try and grow a vision, an idea of many people sitting at a table. Everyone knows something that the other person doesn't know, and collectively we can do much more together than any of us could do individually. I mean, there are, as you rightly said, so many different women's organizations. So what? I mean, I'm not invested in the Foundation for Women being around forever. If it can be part of something bigger that would satisfy exactly the deep calling that I feel so strongly, which caused me to get people to sit on my living room floor to birth this in the first place. And now, whatever this next chapter, can come out of this, whatever that looks like, without any expectations, but knowing I'm aching for that community that was before, before the last 8 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If the women gather without an agenda, without a hidden agenda, without preconceived ideas, that's when something new can birth. That's when spirit can be heard, because it sounds like you want to put together a listening experience, visioning and listening to each other with no right or wrongs. Just, this is my idea, put it on the board.
Yes, and including some people, if we did this at the church in Encinitas, for example, Kathy, there are some people like Sylvia that I want to be in that circle who maybe physically could not be in that circle. My friend Charlotte in Maine, I would want her to be in that circle. So how can we have a spot, but then still try and invite and include some other voices from those that physically can't, be, or do we just start with just the circle in Southern California and then see where it grows from that?
We have experimented over the years with a mixture of in-person women and women who join virtually with a big Zoom screen, for instance. My experience is it weakens the experience for the people in the room, and it is not satisfying for the people on Zoom. It just is sort of a B- for everybody. Adequate, but not inspiring.
I love that. I
church online.
Mm-hmm.
No energy whatsoever. Same service, duplicated in exactly what they do and say, but there is no energy in it for the people sitting at home.
Okay, see, that's such a rich experience. I haven't had that experience, and so I'm going to learn from you and not even try it. You've tried it, it didn't work, so we get, scratch that.
When I went to Kathy's event that they had, it was sometime 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whenever you had it at the Center for Spirit, what's at the church.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they had us do was to break up in very small groups, and they had specific dialogue for us to have with questions to start our dialogue. And it was quite lovely because I didn't know any of the women in my circle. I knew some of the women that were there, but they were not in my circle. And to hear the depth of longing in their voices for the opportunity to, number one, to be heard in a space where we're all together, not like you and I, and all in a space together, breathing the same air, feeling the same energy, and just sit there and be heard, not judged, not made wrong, not nobody broke in the comment and said, well, none of that. It was just listening. And it was profound because every single one of them had something that they were longing to say that they had not said. Didn't matter what the subject was, but one question brought up so many different spaces in their hearts, and they got heard. And the energy when we went around afterwards and we shared, it was beautiful because everybody felt that they had gotten something off their chest, number one, out of their heart, through their mouth, and it landed in a safe, loving space. That's what everybody needed. That's what everybody wanted. And we got it in that moment. So thank you, Kathy, for creating that, because it was quite special. So something like that needs to come around where everyone can come into a small group and willingly come because they know there's something there that they're going to feel and they're going to experience. They're willingly coming and they're excited to come because of the anticipation of what's going to happen, because of the energy from the women that they know that are coming, that are heart women, that are, visionary women that don't want to be separate. They want to be co-creative consciousness. Well, they're asking for it. They love it. They want it. A whole new paradigm shift. And they want to be part of that. But they need to be heard first on a very deep level.
I love that, Janie, because that's what's going to birth this next chapter. By listening, deep listening to what, that's why there's a foundation for women all these years, because people came and we listened. I used to say when we opened the center, I spent 4 days out of 5 days just sitting at a chair. Those 2 chairs you bought helped us find, Janie, for that in that office space, just listening to people for 4 days. That's all I did is listen. One day I did, a budget or a this or a that, but 4 days, that's all I did is listen. And people came to
that. I think that's where the talking stick is so important, or something like that, because it holds the space for that one person, and there are rules around it. You don't interrupt, you listen, let them finish. And then if they want input, they will say, I'd like to know what you think. So that there's the beauty of the safety that they feel in whatever they have to say, and that they have their moment. That's a beautiful thing. So somehow having something in our group that specifically says it's your turn, I think that's very important. Yeah, there it is. Sylvia has one.
There it is. Sylvia has it.
Love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and that experience of being heard and being held in the circle builds resilience.
Yes, it does.
It builds spiritual resilience, which is what women really need right now.
And when heard without judgment, we return, because we know it's safe.
Exactly. Kate, quiet. There's something brewing in there.
I don't know if there's, I really like the idea of getting together. I was thinking that it might be better to be in January where there's nothing going on. January is, you've got the New Year's, you've got people maybe feeling about, whatever you're going to be doing this year, whatever my focus is going to be on. I think for me, November seems early, like too soon for brewing, for making sure people, but that's just my own thing. And January seems to be a time where there's almost nothing going on in general. So, but I like the idea of a big gathering, and hopefully, a lot of people would come, and that you could invite other people that that might be interested in things like that. And I think that's a great idea. And I do think I think rebranding is also really important too. I do. I think that it's sort of beyond I mean, I think even a name change is very important too. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you help them understand that it's the same group of people, the same organization, but a different concept, a different focus. I don't know.
I've been niggling on that, Kate, myself for the last couple minutes here. And one way that you do that is you have a really compelling title, a title that wakes people up, that makes them curious, that makes them go, what? And a list of collaborators, women of spirit and faith, and the Foundation for Women, and possibly one or two others.
Exactly. So I've been thinking that constantly. Yes.
So that this is a women's event.
Yes.
And where they will learn about Foundation for Women, and where Foundation for Women will learn more about what are women hungry for.
Mm.
And at the end of that gathering, Foundation for Women could carry the ball into the future by saying, we're going to continue to have Zoom calls on First Fridays, and you can stay connected that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or some other form of connection.
Yeah, so there's a model in San Diego for this, Kathy. 3 different organizations helping women who had experienced domestic violence decided many years ago to come together, and they would have one luncheon every year called Women Together. And it was Episcopal Family Services, Battered Women's Center at the YWCA, and Catholic Charities. And instead of each trying to raise money for domestic violence support, they would have this one big event, Women Together. And I don't know what happened to it, but it dissolved more than a decade ago. But I love the concept because it just only made sense. I mean, we all want the same thing. We all want to have that sense of belonging, that sense of community, that sense of making the world better, the sense of leaving a legacy now at this stage in our life. And it's the whole collective impact model out of Stanford. Find people that are doing things that you love, but you don't know anything about, and get them at the table with you. So collectively, you can have it's the way forward. It is the way forward. And we're documenting it, in terms of the big work that we're doing in Liberia now as a model for global social change. But I think taking some of the tenets of that and really focusing on women and community going forward, because women are going to be the leaders. The Dalai Lama says, the next level of leadership is Western women.
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Moon said it too. One word that I think needs to be included in whatever your marketing would be is intergenerational. So just saying women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm seeing older women, I'm seeing mature women, I'm seeing mothers, but intergenerational gives the younger generation an opportunity to recognize that they're going to be included.
Which is exactly what Kathy has been so brilliant at. They've been so intentional about that, being very inclusive of not just age, but ethnicity and everything. I mean,
yes.
we want all women to be part of whatever this is going forward.
So there are a couple things that I would say are essential to figure out fairly quickly. And that is, what other women's organizations, networks, collaborative partners come to mind, who are easy to work with, Where do we think that we would want to do this in the sanctuary at Seaside Community Church? If we do that, we very definitely need to invite Callie Sorensen and Seaside Sisters to be one of the collaborating partners.
Mhm.
Having worked closely with Callie on the event that Janie attended last March, she's challenging to work with. She's very linear in her thinking. She's very masculine, actually, in the way that she does things. And it was exhausting creating that event because she had a lot of preconceived ideas about the way they always do things. Which
So maybe that's not the right venue.
maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. I mean, to have a beautiful space like that and to have it be free is quite remarkable.
Mhm.
And then there's a dining room right next door where we can serve lunch, which is
Mhm.
what we did that day.
Yeah.
So it's convenient, but it comes with challenges.
Yeah, I hear that.
I can't tell you how many times I called Kay and said, I just have to say, now I'll go back and continue to push the rock up the mountain with my forehead. But yeah, it was like that.
Well, I'm very cognizant of the time. We're at 2 minutes to the hour, and I'm just deeply, deeply grateful for your commitment to this time, to this conversation, to the willingness to just be in this circle right now to talk about how we can expand this circle. And Kathy, I mean, if you can make a commitment in terms of Women of Spirit and Faith and Foundation for Women, we're in for sure in this conversation as we go forward. I mean, I think that's a beautiful place to start. And then, yeah, who else do we need to invite into the conversation, and where and when, and how can we take, baby steps between now and then to put some things in place. I mean, I'm already thinking about just doing the month of September, this honoring the women in our lives, but do it with the intention of finding a young woman in everyone's world to honor, so that we can pick up the honoring the women aspect, but we can have the intentionality of bringing the next generation into the conversation. Sylvia.
Invite a BIPOC organization, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Otherwise, we feel left out when it's all, and especially if it's in La Jolla.
Well, it's not going to be
Or
in La
what?
Jolla.
Okay,
Yeah.
but make us feel included.
Well, sister, you help make that happen.
I don't know any organizations
Well,
in San Diego.
Well, we'll find it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's another organization that I have tiptoed in and have never really gotten very heavily involved. And they used to be called Dining for Women, and now they are called Together Women Rise. And they're all over the country. They do similar things to FFW in that when you come to a meeting, you make a donation, and whichever group they are honoring in that month, donation goes to that group. It can be somebody in Nigeria, it can be all over, but it's always about women, and they pick who the women are going to be. And I was just never able to get to their meetings and make it happen. But they're a good organization. They're well funded, and they're strong. So just Google Together Women Rise and take a look at it. I don't know who the leaders are because, as I said, I tiptoed into it and tiptoed out. just because it didn't work, but they know what they're doing, and they're very good at it, and they are legit. So I think that there may be a nucleus of younger and older women in that group that might be interested in what we're talking about. I'm just guessing, but they're good. So it's Together Women Rise.
Thank you, Janie.
Well, and I'd like to suggest that as we think of things, let's just feed it to Deborah, to her email. If we think of organizations or key women who should be involved, I'm thinking of one right now, Laura Swan, who's located in the Encinitas area and is probably in her 40s with young children. And she has a large community of women that she gathers with on a regular basis. And she may even have a space now that I'm thinking about it. So
Good. Yes, I would love to be the receptacle. So just let me start. The space is already here. The container is created from this conversation today. So let's just start putting things in it and continuing the conversation so we see where this goes.
I just thought of someone that I wanted to contact.
Good. Thank you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Thank
Who
you.
might have information. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
it was lovely meeting
Awesome.
new people, new
Thank-
women.
thank you, Katie. It
Thank
was
you.
nice
Wonderful meeting you.
Oh, and Kate. Yes.
Katie has the crud, so thank you for managing to be on the call. Thank you. And Claudette, I see you joined us as we're finishing, so I'll catch you up.
Yeah, I'm apologize, everybody. I had it down for 1 o'clock for some reason.
Always 12, and always the first Friday.
Okay, I think
So-
I'm missing because Corey has my old email address, Deb.
Yeah, we changed it for sure. I thought that was long ago.
Okay, good. I'm so
So,
sorry. I really wanted
sorry.
to hear what everybody was saying. I apologize.
Well, it's okay. I'll catch you up.
I'll make
And it's
sure I
recorded.
Okay.
Oh, is it recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Then-
I can
then have
share with
Corey-
you.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Share,
will.
share the recording with me and then I'll watch the whole thing and I'll get up to speed.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other thought before we? Thank you.
Gratitude, just gratitude.
Yeah.
Absolutely gratitude. That it feels so hopeful, and I just feel I was kind of down when I got on the call, and now I feel lifted. I feel like there's an energy that I can jump into and love. And I want to thank you all for that, because I needed it today. I need exactly what all the other women need. I needed this. So thank you.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Sure.
Need it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
all need
we
it.
all need
Yeah.
it.
We do. We do.
I have stepped away from the organizations that I've been volunteering with here in San Diego because they're tired.
Yeah.
They've been doing whatever they're doing forever, and there's always just this little core, no reaching out to other people. And I'm happy to be back.
Yay, Sylvia.
Action.
We love you. Thank you.
Nice.
You know, I'm sitting here looking at the painting behind me. That painting I did when we came back from India.
Yeah.
Yep.
I called it
Oh.
The Sea of
Stars.
Stars. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was Cynthia Sinclair.
Yeah, that was life-changing for me when we went to India, because it opened my eyes to the bigger picture that all women are exactly the same. They want the same things. And here are these sweet women who lived on less than $1 a day and couldn't speak English, and we're all there together, and it was just pure love. So I came home and I painted the Sea of Stars, and it just came right out of me. I didn't have anything to look at. It was just there. So to me, that particular painting speaks to what we're trying to create again, is that there's no differentiation between these women, except they have a lot of pretty colored outfits on. There's no faces. It doesn't matter. It's just this gathering of this energy. And so I really believe that we're onto something. I really do.
And Janie, I'm so glad you brought that up, because in some ways, those women have every single day what we're trying to create, because they need each other so badly to survive that they hold tight to each other or they wouldn't survive. And we in the West don't have that same sense of connection and urgency for survival, you know. So I mean, I've been so blessed to be a global citizen, as have, you know, so many of us, to be in women's circles all over the world. And really, some places like India and Africa, they do it much better than us because they so need
For sure.
each other that they have to hold hands with each other. So,
And they're not distracted by all the materialism that we are forced down our friggin' throats. And it's difficult now, right? Well, exactly. And here we are, we're on Zoom.
yep.
And I know it's not a bad thing, but I mean, watching my children who are in their 30s, they are so addicted to this. And I know I am too. And it's
On me.
we have such a hard time getting together. I have a really, really good friend who's African American. She said to me years ago, she said, I always felt sorry for white people because they never had community in their religions. And that was so true. I never thought of it. We've always been alone, separate in whatever it is we're doing. We have never come together. We have been pushed in a certain direction our whole lives. And it's not what we want, it's what they want. And we do want community. We do want to touch. We do want to be together physically. It's the only way you share your energy, right? I mean,
Amen.
you need to have that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, huge hug to you all.
You too. You
Thank
too.
you.
To be
Thank you.
continued.
To be continued.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Blessings all.
Love
Bye.
you.
Bye.